the goal is not to allow a cyber incident to impact the availability of the game or stop or cause a stoppage in play, if you will, right? So if the official has to blow the whistle because there was a cyber incident, that's a bad thing. That's a bad day in my life, if you will.
This is a Security Weekly production. Security Weekly is a resource of Cyber Risk Alliance.
The Cybersecurity Collaborative and Wiz is proud to present CISO Stories. Each week, CISO Stories takes a deep dive on security leadership with one of the contributors to my latest book, the best-selling CISO Compass: Navigating Cybersecurity Leadership Challenges with Insights from Pioneers, as well as from other top CISOs and security thought leaders. The Cybersecurity Collaborative is a unique membership community enabling cybersecurity leaders to work together in a trusted environment. To learn more, visit securityweekly.com/CSC or visit cyberleadersunite.com. I'm your host, Todd Fitzgerald, and this week we welcome Tomás Maldonado, CISO at the National Football League or the NFL.
Todd, first of all, thanks for having me, and it's great to be here and having a conversation with you. So what attracted me to cybersecurity? I'll say I stumbled into it. I almost remember it like if it was yesterday. I was having a conversation with a recruiter. I was in the mix of leaving. I was leaving a company called Bloomberg. You probably heard of it. And I wanted to actually be a network engineer because when I started doing technology, it was around when the internet was evolving. There were only, I want to say, 100 CCIEs in the world, Cisco Certified Internet Networking Engineers. And I happened to work with two of them while I was an intern in college. And I saw them traveling the world. And I said, hey, I want to do that. I want to get out of New York City, get out of the Bronx, New York, and really travel the world and explore. And so I started down the path of learning networking. And when I took an opportunity right out of college, I didn't know what I wanted to do. So I did, as any person that does technology doesn't know what they want to do, you work the help desk. So I worked Bloomberg Tech Support, Tomás speaking. That was my catchphrase. And I remember shortly after doing that for maybe about 3 months, I was like, I've got to get out of doing this help desk support stuff. And so I'll fast forward to I was there for about a year, and I remember a recruiter say, Tomás, I know you want to do networking and you want to do network engineering, but I got the network security officer job open up. Why don't you go in and interview and see if you like it and if they like you? I went in, I interviewed with the CTO. The CTO decided to hire me. I liked the job. It was a smaller investment banking company. I took on the role. They sent me to training. I learned how to do TCP/IP security, TCP/IP hacking. I learned to do firewalls, engineering, administration. And I really fell in love with the fact that you're able to take over a computer and sort of take it over in a way that other technologists or even just regular people weren't capable at the time. And not only take it over and have that sort of power on it, but also have the ability to then shut the door and close it and prevent others from doing it. So I always say I stumbled into security because that's how I got my start. There was no college curriculum that said, hey, you want to do information security or cybersecurity. It didn't exist, right? At that time, it didn't exist. E-commerce was starting to pick up and a lot of people were hacking shopping cart systems and making small to medium-sized businesses go bankrupt because they were basically giving out products for free. And so that stumble has led me to a good 24, 25-year career now. So it's been the best stumble of my life.
Yeah, I've heard that so many times about the help desk because you get to know what all the problems and the issues are, and then you can see all the different departments and what piques your interest and what you really want to work in. And then having the network fundamentals is so great because that's understanding that foundational knowledge is so important today.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. Right. Look, I'm a computer scientist by trade. I learned a lot about programming, and I always say I left the programming skill set in college because I never programmed outside of college, and I kept the analytical thinking and mindset. And that's really helped me and propelled me within my career. And the networking background, I agree with you 100%. And again, I'm a little biased because that's what I sort of enjoy doing and what I wanted to do. But when I think about problems, I'm always thinking about how are they connected? Whether it's a business problem or technology, solution or initiative? How is it connected? And then I'm thinking about it from a set of like an onion, right? Where you've got different sort of circles around the onion that make up the body of the onion when you sort of start to peel it back. So I'm thinking about it from that mindset of you've got the interior, which is some sort of systems and they're all networked. And then how are those interdependencies with the other layers and the other networks in that? So that mindset, what is good, bad, and different has really worked and helped me in not only planning my career, but building teams, working with my business stakeholders, helping to influence individuals that I need to influence to be able to get our program moving forward. That sort of networking mindset is really what I rely upon deep down inside. That's probably the fundamental skill set that I rely upon. That and knowing how to type. One of the things that I never thought I would have never had to know, but thank God for my mom, man, telling me to stick with it and take that keyboarding 101 class when I was in high school. So best two skills of my life.
Yeah. You never know where these skills are going to take us. And which brings us to our topic today, which is, talking about the NFL. And when I think about the NFL and security, it's mind-boggling in a way, because you have this franchise model, you have all these different owners, and it's really a global thing. I happen to be a big Green Bay Packer football fan.
My condolences.
Yeah, and I probably just tuned away, 97% of our listeners now, because, it's only one of 32 teams in the NFL. But I went to London and I was at the London Giants game this year. And so I could see what a global thing it was. I met people in the coffee shop that flew over from Denmark to see the Green Bay Packers play. And so I think we forget that sometimes, what a global environment that you're actually managing.
Yeah, no, it absolutely is. And I wish I would have known you were in London for that game, because I would have met you. I was at that game as well. I actually worked there with my team securing that particular game. But no, it's the sport transcends, right? And, yes, it's very popular in the US and has a huge and massive following. But what we found as we travel overseas is that there's equal amount of interest and excitement around the game, especially seeing in London for the 3 games that were played this season there. And even when we think about the Germany game where we played there. So there's definitely that excitement. I can tell you that the adversaries are definitely global. There's no shortage of global adversaries trying to do some sort of harm to the game, cause some sort of havoc, if you will, or make a name for themselves. We see that. It's very apparent in our logs. You can see a specific pattern of behavior. There's from organized crime, if you will, and I'll say, let me not associate it to organized crime, but I'll say there's a specific pattern of logs that we see of activities where it's usually a 9 to 5 activity and from the country of origin within that particular time period. So we definitely know that there is interest in doing some harm, if you will, to the business.
What sort of things do you find are your biggest issue areas that you have to mitigate for?
I think it's a combination of your typical cyber threats, whether it's like phishing threats or phishing attacks on our staff, trying to get access to the credentials, whether it'll be logical credentials to log into systems, or just get an idea as to what are their physical credentials to actually get into a game. So they're trying to, gain access that way. Whether it's a big event, a big tentpole event that we might have, think about like the Super Bowl or any other sort of big event, just trying to make a name for themselves, or trying to cause a disruption. I think the one thing that we specifically look to defend against, and I'm sure it's no different to any other CISOs, that sort of convergence between cyber physical is probably more apparent in my world, because we have our product is the game, and that game is being played with its fans watching that game in actual venues. But that convergence of cyber physical is very, very top of mind for us, and something that we try to protect against. So, I'm not trying to give the adversary something to target, but I can tell you that those are the areas that we spend a lot of time really not only honing our capabilities and honing our sort of threat intelligence capabilities and overall broad security controls. But it's something that we spend a lot of time educating the respective venues that we operate in and the respective operators, so that they can start to assist us in doing better and securing the venue or the environment that we're operating in. And that goes whether we're playing in the US or whether we're playing overseas in our global footprint of games.
So is there a concern around like ticket fraud and being able to get access to those tickets? I know there's a lot of different ways that companies are printing tickets, and I just got some tickets to a concert recently, and they sent me paper tickets, but the paper tickets actually had smart cards inside the paper tickets, which I'd never seen before.
Yeah, there's always a concern around the ticketing. I don't think there's such a high concern around the ability to do ticket fraud from the aspect of a cyber threat, if you will. But there's always the ticket fraud from just scalping, general scalping, whether it's an individual trying to sell tickets and then selling fraudulent tickets to the fan, and the impact to the fan, right? Because now you have a fan that, you're a Green Bay Packers fan. Let's say you bought a ticket from your StubHub, or name your ticketing place, secondhand market, if you will, and it was fraudulent or fake, or you bought it while you were trying to actually get to the venue. We worry about that. We worry about that aspect of it. We don't necessarily worry as much around if you're buying it firsthand from your main ticketing organizations. Obviously, we rely heavily upon those ticketing organizations. We don't sell tickets ourselves. But we are more concerned about that secondhand market. And it's twofold around the secondhand market. One, you don't know who's coming into your venue. So if you think about a big event and you have fans that may have resold their tickets, you usually know if you bought your ticket from a main ticket partner, you usually know the individual that purchased it, right? You'll know their name, their email address, you probably know the phone number, some details about them. And you can, I don't want to say profile, but you can have an idea as to whether these are season ticket holders, so your regular fans, or just one-off fans, and you can start to build a profile around individuals that are coming into your venue to better serve those individuals, right? Better serve those individuals from not only their overall experience, but also from a security standpoint, now having a better idea, a better sense for your active participants that are going to be at the stadium. What that secondhand market becomes a little tricky, because now I don't know that it was Todd that was going to attend the stadium. It could be Todd who sold it to someone else, and I might trace it back to you, but it's not actually you. And so that comes into play very importantly when there's something that happens in the stadium and we need to do an investigation. Let's say a fan caused some level of disruption. We usually try to figure out, was this a fan that was a known fan to the sports arena, right? So a regular season fan, or is it a one-off that they buy it on the secondhand market, which is usually the case, causing some level of disruption. But I'll say that's one of the key areas that we tend to focus in on, and that plays a big part in our overall investigation, usually after the fact.
The article this podcast is based upon can be viewed in the best-selling cybersecurity leadership book, CISO Compass, Navigating Cybersecurity Leadership Challenges with Insights from Pioneers. So in terms of like your normal operation, and of course, not just the Super Bowl, but you have games, every weekend, and protecting like the video feeds and the replays. And is there a lot of security work around that as well?
There is. We work with our broadcast partners. So there's the typical broadcast, whether they're like the television agencies that sort of will broadcast the game or stream the game. And then there's the NFL network, where we'll actually create our own content and broadcast the game, specific games during the season. So with our broadcast partners, we're relying upon the broadcast partner essentially not getting hacked, right? Making sure that they have the right level of controls in place to protect the data feeds and it's twofold, right? One is not allowing the stream to get compromised so that the quality in the stream that hits your television set is viewed in a way that's appropriate to your viewing TV set. But the other half of that is to be able to manage the stream so that it doesn't become pirated, if you will. So we do a lot of, there's a huge initiative that we spend a lot of time working on pirated streams and working with our broadcast partners and other agencies to take down those pirated streams. And then you have the other aspect, which is content that we're creating, which is usually the case for all of the football games. We're creating content. In some instances, we're actually broadcasting that content through our own NFL network. And so I have a 24/7 security operations team that is essentially looking at all of the, security cyber type threats that we're trying to defend against on a periodic basis, especially more heightened during game days. So even though we're 24/7 during game days, we're spending a lot. We're a little bit more vigilant, if you will, just to ensure that there's nothing that will impact the actual stream, as well as nothing that will impact the actual corporate function, if you will, because we're just like any other business, right? We run our operations. Yeah, we broadcast very visible gains, but we have a lot of other lines of business that we need to protect information from.
Where would you say you're focused the most if we look at that CIA triad? Is it, are you most concerned about a DDoS type attack, or are you concerned about the integrity of the streams or authentication of who's coming into the games?
Yeah, so I'll say it shifts in priority, right? It shifts in priority in that CI, that confidentiality, integrity, and availability. And the shift happens where just before the game starts, we're spending a lot more time validating content, validating individuals that are connected into systems, right? Spending a lot more time focusing in on that integrity and confidentiality of information and integrity of systems. And then once the game is actually being played, our shift tends to go towards availability. The goal is, especially for our bigger events that there's several or more millions and billions of eyes on it across the world, the goal is not to allow a cyber incident to impact the availability of the game or cause a stoppage in play, if you will, right? So if the official has to blow the whistle because there was a cyber incident, that's a bad thing. That's a bad day in my life, if you will. So that's where we spend a lot of our time. Once the game kicks off, we're spending a lot more time sort of monitoring, deterring, I'll say, anomalous or malicious type of traffic by way of our tools. And if we don't have to make changes to actually block something from happening, then we won't do that until the game is finished. Again, if it's not going to impact the game, we can monitor it. If it's not impacting our systems, we can, keep our eyes on it. If we believe that there won't be any harm to our environment, then we'll just monitor until the final whistle is blown and the clock ends, and then we'll actually take action at that point. And we usually take that approach when we think about the bigger tentpole events that we do, like Super Bowl or any of our other broader sort of viewed programs. During the regular season, we have the same mentality, but now you have 32 clubs that are playing in, X amount of stadiums all across the US. And so we're really dependent upon working with those local stadium operators and those local teams that might be managing their technology. And so we spend a year worth of effort just working with them, providing them services, education, additional technologies, cybersecurity technology solutions that we might subscribe for and pay for, which then we push out to the clubs. But we have a really good partnership with those clubs and those stadium operators. We meet with them on a monthly basis, and we're constantly sharing threat intelligence information. So anything that might impact one stadium, we're constantly getting that information back to our security operations center, and then doing collaboration and calibrating our controls appropriately, not only at the league, but also distributing that information with the other clubs. So it's really that sort of the fundamentals of CIA, but then it shifts to availability once we actually have the game being played, which is probably not as common as other CISOs might have to focus their attention on.
So when you have an event as big as a Super Bowl, I think I saw it's like over 100 million users, and advertisers are paying probably in the $6 to $7 million a 30-second spot these days. What sort of things are you really focused on over and above of what would be on a normal game day?
Yeah, we spend a little over a year worth of preparation for a Super Bowl event. So the difference between our league and some of the other leagues that play sports is I know where my final game is going to be played. And so I can spend a year worth of time working with that stadium and all of our specific agencies that we have services for in the U.S. because a Super Bowl event is considered a Tier 1 event. So SEER is Special Event Assessment Rating by the U.S. government, 1 being the highest. And so that allows for the venue to have access to several services that are afforded to them by the U.S. government. So that's things like leveraging CISA and the good work that CISA does with a lot of the not only awareness and training, but pre-planning from tabletop exercises to vulnerability assessments to full-blown penetration assessments and ongoing threat assessments on the stadium. And we'll plan ahead, again, literally a year in advance to work with that stadium. We'll plan ahead so that we can get those respective agencies to start to work on securing those environments. And then we also do our threat assessments, security assessments, and the likes. And as we get closer to game day, the specific things that we do, which I'm not going to share because that's the secret sauce, if you will, but the specific things that we do to try to reduce the footprint of external attacks into our environment. And so, if you take those words that I just said and you think about it, there's as a CISO, as a security practitioner, I'm sure you can figure out what I mean by that. But we try to reduce as much of that external footprint as possible. So, and we profile our environment weeks before we actually get to that Sunday. And the reason we're profiling our environment is we're trying to figure out what known good looks like, if you will, what a baseline of regular activity will look like in that particular venue. And then once anything kicks off in that abnormality or anomalous type activity, we can pounce on that, right? We can focus all of our attention and try to reduce or mitigate that risk. And as we bleed into that game day, we're constantly working with all of our external partners, not only to look at the venue where the game is going to be played, but we look, if you remember what I mentioned, that network mindset, right? That onion where you've got different layers. So we're looking past the venue and we're really spreading out that perimeter way past the venue. And again, there's some things that I'm not going to share because I do know that we play back and the adversaries will listen to this. But we look at that. We look at the footprint of what we need to protect way past and far beyond the actual venue. And we work with all of those interdependencies and interdependent partners, whether they're sort of 3-letter agencies or local law enforcement or other technology vendors that might help us and work with us to secure the environment. And then we start to, again, try to profile and build what good looks like or what normal looks like, because they're never going to get to good, but what normal looks like. So that way we can start to focus and shift as we get into game day and on game day to shift more to availability, right? And then we're doing periodic checks of our controls. Even before we get to the actual game day, we do several security assurance assessments on our environment and on the environment where that's being that the game is going to be played. We'll do a security assurance assessment just to validate our controls and validate that what we put in place and the blockages and the likes are still effective. And then we're constantly monitoring the environment and shifting into availability mode during game day. Sure. We don't stop breathing until the MVP pick has been announced and has been completed, which is usually, I think, about 5 minutes after the game is being played.
Yeah, and that all sounds reasonable. I think that's a great takeaway for CISOs that as that risk profile is changing and increasing, that we really have to think about that and think about what are those additional controls to put in place, but really understanding what does normal look like. I wonder how many environments are just running out there and not understanding what normal looks like.
No, absolutely. And look, I'm a big believer on fundamentals, and I like that you asked me about that CIA triad, because I'm a big believer on that. That's the core of what we do. That's the crux of what we do, right? Making sure that data is confidential, making sure that it hasn't been tampered with, and then it's available whenever you need it. And so that to me is, makes I don't want to say makes my job easy, but that to me, if we focus in on those three critical aspects and then start to build from there, you don't need to chase the shiny objects that are going to tell you, what's happening. If you're focusing in on those particular fundamentals, and then you start to reduce the footprint or vector of attack so that you can then make better decisions and then leverage those shiny objects, right? So things like AI and the likes to help you make decisions a lot faster, a lot quicker. And then obviously, if you don't need to make decisions, help you at least know what's happening so that you can profile it and continue to keep watch on it as for us as a game is being played, so that it doesn't stop the play.
Absolutely. That's great advice, Tomás. And so what final advice would you give to emerging CISOs, current CISOs, experienced CISOs as they're going down this journey and trying to enhance their security programs?
Look, focus on the fundamentals. Ensure that you have plans in place to deal with scenarios. Take time out of your day. If you're 100% of the time focus on tactical and you're not thinking strategically or thinking about how you can better your business or make your business more resilient, then you're not building out those scenarios and working through those tabletop exercises. So I would say build in those scenarios, build in those tabletop exercises, work with your business stakeholders, because things will happen. And try to stay calm when something does happen, because people are looking to you for making decisions when when everybody else's hair is on fire, if you will. You need to be that calm, steady voice in the room that says, this is what we're going to do, and this is why we're going to do it, so that you can make those decisions and bring in those individuals that are within your sphere of influence, or people that you need to actually influence to help you make better decisions, so that way it can be part of that journey. If you can do all of those things, I think you'll be able to sleep better at night. But the final piece of advice that I would say is try to hire good people, because as CISOs, we're only as good as the team that work for us. And we're really working for that team and not the other way around. So try to spend time, hire good people, build that great foundation of talent, and then let those individuals do what they do best and just be there to support them. So that's my takeaway. That's hopefully what I've learned throughout my years, and it's been.
I got to ask you one more quick question. When you said hire good people, where do you go to find those good people?
Man, it's tough. Where do I go? I've been very fortunate to meet a lot of very smart individuals throughout my career. And I try to build those relationships with those individuals over time and keep tabs on their career growth. And I think the strength of that network that I've been able to cultivate has helped me really land those key roles that I've needed to hire individuals for. The other thing is I've hired people consistently throughout different opportunities that I've had. So again, I usually spend a lot of time trying to hire individuals. I spend a lot of time trying to find individuals that are going to be able to be successful in the role, because I know over time they'll probably want to continue to work with me or grow into their other roles. But where do I find those individuals? That's a tough one, right? So it's really building that network of not only other CISOs that I engage with, but organizations that are really focused in on community, right? Our community, our information security, cybersecurity community. So, knowing individuals in like Cybersecurity, for example, knowing individuals in like the Executive Women's Forum, knowing individuals that are either in those environments or attached to those organizations, that has helped me sort of, I'll say, bridge the gap between putting up a job description and hiring the right talent.
Sure.
But it's very, very difficult. It's not easy. It's a lot of campaigning, because at the end of the day, individuals have a decision where they could want to work for you, they could want to work for another CISO, and you want to try to stand out, not only the organization that you work in, but also you as an individual leader. You want to be able to stand out. So I've been blessed and very fortunate to have individuals that will continue to want to work for me, and vice versa, me want to work for them.
Well, I always find that if they want to continue working with you, you must be doing something right.
I know, because I'm a pain in the butt at times. But you don't get to doing this job unless I'll say you're stern, but you're fair, and you try to motivate, and you try to make decisions and empower your people. So sometimes I can be a pain in the butt, but I've been very fortunate to have people that want to continue to work with me, again, and vice versa.
Great advice, and thanks for taking the time, Tomás.
No, you're welcome. This has been fun.
Thank you.
Wiz is on a mission to help every organization rapidly identify and remove critical risks in their cloud environments. Purpose-built for the cloud, Wiz delivers full-stack visibility, accurate risk prioritization, and enhanced business agility. Wiz connects in minutes using an agentless approach that scans both platform configurations and inside every workload. We perform a deep assessment that goes beyond what standalone CSPM and CWPP tools offer to find the toxic combination of flaws that represent real risk. To learn more about Wiz, please visit securityweekly.com/Wiz.